Afternoon, everybody. Before I get there, I need to tell you a little bit of background. I need to give you a little bit of background as to where I am now. In 2001, in our area, there were 3 primary schools, namely Vlottenberg Primary, Winelands Primary, and Vlottenberg Primary. 2002, the new Winelands Primary moved into their new premises, and we amalgamated with Vlottenberg Primary. To form Winelands Primary. But that was a decision that was taken by the communities, the staffs, the SGBs of both schools. So the transition was very amicable and very seamless. And then at the end of 2015, we were instructed by the LC8 that the Winelands Primary will close and we will then all move down to Vlottenberg. So there's a big difference in the mindset of the people, where we are now forced, as in the old days of the Group Areas Act, to move to a place from where you were safe into something of an unknown. So 2016, with me as principal, I became aware of the vast differences between the 2 communities, which are actually 3.5 kilometers apart. The families live in the different communities, but the mindsets were different. And even though I've been a principal for 21 years before, it was a difficult journey for me to try to negotiate through all these differences. And sometimes it became quite heated. Nou, ek is 'n ou wat nie like beklei nie. Ek was nog nooit gestraf in die rugby nie. Vervuil spel nie. So, because you lose sight of the goalposts if you're in these busy with these infightings. And when I heard Jessica was looking for me, I knew that was a big possibility that I might get support and more direction with this issues that I was faced with, because I had a previous partnership through Partners for Possibility, but because it was a different time, a different place, things were different. And then I met with Lester, like me, very gentle soul, but you're supposed, as a leader, as a principal, you're supposed to run your school as a business, but nobody teaches you that. We were taught as teachers, not as principals. And the WCD before did not support us all that well. In fact, I have one of the reasons why I retired on Wednesday is because of the lack of support from WCD. And I'm not pointing fingers at them. It is what it is. But through the attendance of the 3 workshops that we had, ladies and gentlemen, I had time to think, literally and figuratively, which had enabled me to initiate, facilitate, and to sustain courageous conversations between the different role players, because we knew that our school was our school was in a toxic state because of the mindsets. But to do that, I had to start with myself. It was a big eye-opener to discover how little I knew about other people. And I had to try to evoke some critical thinking in the role players for them to make difficult decisions. I can tell you, we have a deputy principal. My staff and my SGB had the guts to go above what WCED would expect and to appoint as an interim principal, not the deputy. So they took that decision and they were comfortable with that because of the space that they were in. Especially the last few months of my leadership, it was difficult. Because as a representative of WCED, I had to uphold their thinking, but I had people to look after. At the end of the day, that weighed much more. Because it was those people that will bring a difference in the community. Because at the end of the day, for WCED, I'm just number 513-18837, nothing else.
Oh. Yeah, my journey started with PFP very unexpected. I was nominated by an old colleague of Jessica for the program, and I jumped at it because it was always something that I wanted to do, to be involved with schools, with learning and with teaching. But boy, oh boy, was I humbled at the beginning. The whole experience also gave me a lot of appreciation for what principals go through, as well as teachers. I mean, if you sit with 200 absent children on a day, I mean, it's like a machine breaking in a factory. It's going to impact on your business. It's going to impact on the lives of people in that school. So that really humbled me. So what I've learned is you cannot make a difference in anything if you are not involved and if you are not devoted to the whole course. And that's what I've learned at Vlottenberg Primary School. We've attended programs, Time to Think, brilliant course, Flawless Consulting, Community Building. There are memorable things that I can take from each one of those courses. But what I've learned is,
Go back.
during our community of practice meetings, there was quite a lot of learning as well that took place there. The sharing of the experiences of each school. And through most of those discussions, the message was the same. Principals struggled with the same sort of themes. And I want to maybe tell you what my biggest learning is, and I want to use the analogy of the iceberg. We're supposed to flip through the through the slides. But as you know, an iceberg has two parts, the top part, which is above the water, and the below the water part. The above the water part is subject to winds, below the water part is subject to currents. So it's very difficult to move an iceberg with those forces in play. The top of your iceberg is mostly your social technical stuff, the logic thinking type of stuff. And those are the company strategies, and we make use of this model in business. But it's the same for schools. So you look at strategies, goals, plans, structures, and those sort of things. Below the water, you have the currents, and the currents represent the psychosocial stuff. Those are the spirits and the emotions of the people that's involved with those organizations. And those things are the culture, the attitude, the prejudices, the ideologies, thinking, feelings, communities. And as we know, at an iceberg, the biggest portion of an iceberg is below the surface. So we just see mostly the top part of an iceberg. So if we look at the top part, that's the domain of efficiency. The bottom part, below the water, is the domain of the leadership and trusting. So if one has to move this iceberg, you have to have the winds and the currents moving in the same direction. Now, I would have shown it to you if we can bring that over. So, the two need to move together for any transformation to take place, if it's in a business or in a school. The same things is there. So, the top part is about corporate and brand. The bottom part is about the corporate identity. But as you work on both of these things, the top part will lead to success, the bottom part will lead to significance. And was I surprised when I walked into that school? I thought I can just focus on the top part. And boy, oh boy, there's such a lot of issues below the surface that you never actually see. And you quickly realize you can't just come in and do things and carry on as two of the previous speakers also said. So I learned quite a lot. This was a difficult partnership because of the shortness of the time we had to introduce new thinking. Our focus was firstly on the transformational stuff. So we started off by a strat plan session, and soon we realized that, boy oh boy, there's other things also happening in the school environment. So midway through it, there was the whole school evaluation taking place, and out of that, the self-school, or the school self-evaluations. So we embarked on that process with the teachers and have them complete that self-evaluation program. And that has been done now. We have also asked the non-teaching staff to do the same evaluation to just see what comes out and how they see the whole school as a whole. And we are currently also rolling it out to the SGB for them to give an input as well. At the beginning, the SMT of the school was, that's the senior management team, was not very cooperative from my perspective. The principal might have a different. But now, at least, they are on board with the whole exercise. And what we're going to try and do is to see if the strat plan issues will be reflected in the self-evaluation and see if there's a synergy between those two things. We haven't started with the parents and the community yet, but this is just part of our strat plan session. You can just move on. As you can see from the school self-evaluation, there are 9 topics that's covered through that. It's a fairly broad spectrum of issues. But one can already see there are patterns emerging from this exercise. It will be interesting to see how the SGB evaluation is going to come out. But he's going to talk more about the future. So this partnership, I can just say, is continuing, even though the principal is retired.
Has retired.
Or has retired.
Yeah, it has been confirmed that this partnership for possibility between Leicester and Vlottenberg Primary will continue, irrespective of who occupies the chair. And for that, I am very grateful that we have been able to change people's minds about what we would like to achieve, so that it becomes what they would like to achieve. Because at the end of the day, we would like the school and the community to take bigger ownership of what is happening there. maybe burglaries and break-ins and vandalism will then diminish. I will just try, before I leave, I just want to say something for the principals. I grew up on a farm, and my parents were both principals, and I hated teaching with a passion because my parents were never at home. They were always working. And then by default I became a teacher, and I found out that that was where I was supposed to be. And then I became a principal, and even more so. It is one of the most, if not the most, rewarding jobs, because you get to impact not only the kids' lives, but you get to change the mindsets of communities. And because of the partnerships that has been formed through Symphonia, I think that is the only way that schools can emerge as real beacons of hope through this partnership. And for Symphonia also, all of the best. I would like to continue as Leicester's understudy, but the school and the SMT has got a say in that. But it's good for me because it's in the blood. I wish everybody the best.